Hello and welcome, joining me on this glorious day. It feels like spring is coming, not just because it's sunny and I'm in a t-shirt, but also got a few insects starting to come around. I've been watching the hoverflies and other such joyous things, so it's definitely on the way. Is it time to start putting out tender cyathias? No, probably not, but it's getting there. That's the main thing. It's getting closer. So yeah, so I've been a busy boy. It looks like I've been a busy boy, but it doesn't feel like it. Like I said a couple of videos ago, now I've got that little half hour between sort of finishing up work and it actually getting dark. I can do sort of bits and bobs in hour sort of thing. I can sort of keep it ticking over. So, but first thing you'll probably notice is I got the two fence posts in finally after probably 9 months of saying I'm going to put them in next week. I actually finally put them in. So these were alright. What was actually the deciding factor on it? Remember I was saying about, like, if they're from the inside of them, so in and around here if you like, they're a bit tight, if that makes sense. It sort of enclosed the space a little bit, but then that was always going up against this part where you're walking out, and I didn't want this being too far to the sort of left, if you sort of, get whatever. And but what actually I decided on was to ignore all of that, stop thinking about that. And there's two things. The first one is, as you walk out the door, like I am, I'm stood on the door frame pretty much, so you walk out, you look like that. The most important thing is seeing that little 45 in the coping stones jut up and away from the fence post. When it was a bit further to the right, because ideally that fence post would have been bang on that line to the right, if you see what I mean, but it covered up that sort of top corner of it, and it just didn't sort of feel right that you couldn't see that, because now that you can see that kicks you off, because the centre of that isn't centre to the door. It sort of kicks you across, and then lo and behold you're pretty much in the centre line of that. So yeah, that's what I decided on in the end. Again, I can walk around this nice, so I'm not worried about being able to get behind people when they're sat at whatever table I decide to get. I can just walk around the side nice and easy. Happy days. So yeah, it worked out pretty good, and the reason I know that it's pretty much there or thereabouts is because I'm still saying it's enclosed the space too much on this side, and it's not far enough to the left this side. So that tells me that it's somewhere in the middle of both of those, which means it's probably about right. And to be honest with you, I don't want to think about it anymore, so I'm happy with that. And then of course, once that one was in there, it was just find the centre point of the garden, measure across, and they are there or thereabouts. Or if they are not exactly symmetrical, I don't want to know that they're not exactly symmetrical, because it will mess my mind up. So yeah, that worked out quite well. So this is now ready for, also another thing on this actually, which I thought was quite nice, which I didn't realise until a bit later, was as you walk out, if you're going to look up, what I'm trying to do with this, because it's not a massive garden, is I'm trying to enclose the space to make it look a bit bigger, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is that if you've walked out of here, I apologise for the sun, but that banana that's in the centre, if you imagine that's going to be quite big, and at the climbing frame height is going to sort of, have its leaves coming out left and right at about that height, that will sort of, with the rest of it, hide the left side of the climbing frame. Up to the slide, as it were. And then this post, because I'm going to do a vertical garden, what I'm going to do, I'll go into it more when I did it, but last year, the reason that irrigation is all up against that fence is because I put in some of these pockets just to see how they worked. I'm doing some Uber testing on bromeliads and whether they can take -8 with no care. It doesn't look like they can, but we'll see. Yeah, so basically I just left them out because I forgot about them. But yeah, essentially what I'm going to do with these, because I worked out the way that it will sort of go, I'll go into it a bit more, but instead of them being racked like they are one on top of the other around the fence post, these two, I'm going to set them up so, like, the one at the bottom height is going to be on these two bits, and then the next one up will be on those two bits, and then the next one up those two bits, and work the way up like that. I'll get into it more when we get into it, but essentially they're going to be sort of like, hopefully look like sort of trees that have got epiphytic plants growing off them. I've already got 2 or 3 ferns I can use that will grow like that I know will do very well like that, so that's all good. So yeah, I'm more than happy with them. And when the time comes, and if you think I'm going to have a giant honeysuckle now, I have no idea how it's going to go, but if it went well, it could come up there, go all the way around here. I'll get some trellising running across the front of those posts up high, if you like, and have it run across all of this, and then any offshoots will go back over the pergola sort of thing. And then the idea is that you walk out of here, you can't really see the climbing frame, or you can get a little bit of a glimmer of it, and you have to sort of stick your head to the left or to the right to see what's there. That's the kind of gist. The same with this statue head. Once, see how that fern's covering, once I've got the camellias in there, a cyathea in there, and a few ferns dotted around, you're not going to notice it when you first walk out the door, but what you'll do is you might just get a glimmer out the corner of your eye and be like, oh, there's a statue head there. So that's the kind of motif for it all. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. We'll get onto the patio in a second. A few things that did actually work out quite nice, and I love it when a plan comes together, is this line of coping stones. It is, when I extend that bit out a little bit, the top 2 that are by the where you put your drinks if you sat on the bench, if that makes sense, those 2 that are sort of back against the fence facing us, it's going to line up exactly right with that. And then something that I didn't clock on until I was laying these the other day is that this straight edge here, the vertical one, or the one going away from us, marries up with the edge of that wall going up there, so that worked out alright, so I'm happy with that. Haven't quite got to that fence post there yet, which I'm going to put in pretty much back edge of those 2 stones in the middle there, and just go up there. And then I can make a little pergola on this bit going across, big pergola coming across here, covered area there, and then tin roof on that seating area over there that you can't see, which I've taken one of the seats out for, just because I'm going to start doing that bed in a bit, which we'll get into. So yeah, I'm happy. When it comes to the patio, it's pretty much there or thereabouts. I ran out of sand, I ran out of cement, and I ran out of pavers as well. So today, we have what we need. It was mainly, all I did, like I said, I just lay this on sand pretty much. So all I did was got the levels built up as much as I could, give it a rake off with a builder's rake just to break up the surface, dump a load of sand in, and then I just worked my way from these pavers. And of course the awkward thing is like my 2 pavers there are pretty much right, but the original ones dip down in the centre there. If you have a look on the left and the right, they're actually level, so a little bit of jiggery pokery to do, but you know, it's something I'm not amazingly fussed about. But what the plan is now I've got those stones, you can see under the bench they don't line up right, so I need to dig down there, get some sand in. I just wanted to get that one cut that the bench's foot is on. So yeah, I've done that. I just need to put 2 whole ones in there, do the cuts around the back and the side, do the cut for there, and then just work on the levels of these a little bit. But I had to build it up quite a lot, and whenever I have to build something up, like as in chuck a couple of shovel loads of mud in it, a lot of the coping stones were like this actually, I chuck sand on, and then what I'll do is I'll walk on them for a couple of weeks and just get it all to settle, and then I'll take them all back up again. But I'll probably do it right at the end when I do the last lay, because what will happen is I'm still going to take up all of these again, and then I'll just do a fine dust in the sand, and then I'll actually get a level out and make sure they're all bang level, if that makes sense, in the last bit. So yeah, still got to take them up again, but the good thing is about doing it on sand is that I can just put a knife in and lift them up if I have to. And you'll notice on this one my cut went a bit, this is the first one I cut and it's a bit too much of a big gap, so I'm going to recut this one. But the idea was originally was that gap on the right there, I wasn't thinking it was going to be as big as that, so I was going to do that size gap around both of them, and then I wouldn't have to cut a little strippy bit out of that patio paver. But it hasn't worked out like that, so I will cut that one again. But like I said on the last video, I'm still trying to piece together how I'm going to get the I'll come up here so the sun's behind me, that might make more sense, because if you think those 3 posts up to there, that's going to be all level at the front, and then the pergola is going to come from just under that light down towards them, and there's going to be a gutter in running across the front of it. But then when it gets to this point where I'm going to cover it, the roof's actually going to go back the other way and probably be as high as the top of this trellis. That needs to tilt back into there, so I'm still working out exactly what I'm going to do with the guttering. It may be that I need to strap a fence post to that one and this one and there to get the height up a bit. But so I'm going to hold off cutting that particular stone, and then what I'll do, if I need to strap a post to it, I'll take that stone up, strap it wherever it's going to go, and then I'll cut after that, if that sort of makes sense. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it. I don't need to dig down for that though. So the most important thing was just to get the footprint done like I'm saying. Up this end, I got this cut in here, so this is quite nice. What I need to do is I ran out of cement, because what I'm going to do now is settle all these, put all these in properly. I just chucked them in late yesterday, all these ones, get that last cut done up to the tiki head of the coping stone, probably recut this one here just so where that goes up to the tiki head, just have a little bit more of it going up, if that sort of makes sense, just to make it not so gappy. And then once these are all down, I'm going to cement that bottom step in and try and get it up a bit, because that's just resting on that patio's paver at the moment. What I want to do is get it up a couple of inches, put it on cement so it's nice and solid, and then put the following one, the one above it, the top step, on a load of cement as well. And it's not necessarily to keep it rigid, it's to raise it up, because over here my seating area needs to finish level with the top of that bit of wood at the back. That's the level, so that when I've got a seat here like I have here, and just bear in mind that this is a little bit too low, when I'm sat here you can see those woods there, but if I go up much further you can just see the top of Matey Boy's garage next door, so that's literally the view. But that's the one I want, and it gets the sun last thing at night here, so I need it to be up as high as possible, and I don't think these steps are actually going to get me up high enough, so maybe I need to even put another step on the top. But if I can just get these in as high as possible, what that will then allow me to do, they'll be in their fixed place. I can then do what I'm going to do with the tiki heads. I did say a few videos ago that I was going to cut out the back of them, so this one's a perfect one over here. Oh god, it's so muddy. This is where I was chopping the pavers yesterday, so there's loads of water there. But can you see how that tiki head is sort of backed into the soil? If you think the soil is going to come up and cover this edge of the top steps, it's going to come all the way almost up to his crown. What I need to do is effectively, where that is now, is cut out the back of that tiki head in that sort of shape, bash out the inner bit down there. You probably can't see it, but it's obviously just it's meant to be a pot. Bosh out the bottom of that, and then what that will mean is that pot is then open for the plants to get their roots into this ground. Same with that tiki head there. If you think that flower bed is going to be up as high as this step, I need to cut out the back of it, smash out the little bit on the inside so that the roots can go back, and that will just save me having to repot these Jurassic Golds so much, hopefully. And then what I'll do with this big gap here, because I tried it in loads of different sort of orientations and it just didn't work. It needs to be as it is now, so luckily enough I have got quite a few stones to choose from. So I'll put a little stone in there, put a little stone over the top to meet up with that coping stone that's half on the wall and half not, and then that should all tie in quite nicely. And then last thing for over here really is get that Blechnum out, the one at the back, although they're supposed to be pretty tricky, these Blechnum spicants, and it's actually loving life there, so I may or may not move it. But what I want to do is get like a star jasmine up against this, climbing up. And the reason for that is because it's an evening seating area, and I think they're scented, and the wind's going to come this way off the top of the garage down here towards the Dixonia. It should waft the scent across in the evening, because they open in the evening, I believe. But yeah, we'll go from there. Anyway, I just need to get those cemented in and the tiki heads cut is the gist of that, and then I can mess around with all that later, so that's not too bad. Now the last thing, which I said I was going to do, which I did do, as you can see, is the fencing behind the bamboo, or I started it. So you may remember, or you may not remember, but essentially that fence post is a normal one, it's behind them, yeah. This one I couldn't get it in the ground down there was too much concrete, so I had to jut it out a bit, so the fence actually runs in behind that, which is no real worries. But I was actually clever and overran the boards, thinking if I ever have to put a fence in, I'm not going to be able to strap it to the fence post, so I can just screw it straight into there, which is what I've done there. If you can see, it's just on top of it. But the biggest issue I had was that I've built this here now and I couldn't get to screw it into the wood, so I had to build up a big rig. But all that fencing you can see there, so what's that, 4 or 5 of them, that is just one big piece. And essentially what I did was, can you see that bit of vertical wood there? That goes all the way down, and I've kind of screwed all the fence panels into that. And then there's 2 over here. There's one, you could probably just see the screws there just off of the fence post. There's one vertical bit going down there, and then there's another one, you probably can't see it, but it's just to the left of the bamboo one there. What it is, as you can see down there, I didn't leave enough room between that wall and the fence post, so you can't get fence panels, fence wood in behind it. So in the end, what I had to do was, as you can see, chop a little section out of that bit of wood that's there, and then the bottom 2 panels that are there are only about, well, 60 centimeters long. They only come as far as this bit of wood that drops down that I've clipped behind it there. But that's good, because that means that I can now, when I'm doing the cutting for the last patio slabs and that, I can cut all of these things in, and I can chop the bamboo down, and then when it comes to it, I can just now screw in wood nice and easy all the way up as and when I get it. It did work out quite nice, because they sell that wood in 3.6 meter lengths, and funny enough, the top of that flower bed over there with the odd wood on, as you can see it, plus that is 3.57 centimeters. So the fact that I bought 5 of them means that I've got the 4 that can go there, so I can do that bit over there, which means I can cut in the coping stone pavers for the top of that flower bed where those 2 little bits of wood are just at the moment. Get that done, get all of these done, and then when the time comes, just buy wood as and when and just put it in as and when. So yeah, that worked quite nicely, I think. Oh yeah, and the pipes as well, let's not forget the pipes. So here's my, don't just ignore these 2 are still on the system, so I need to drain it properly before I chop them, otherwise I'll drain all my central heating system out here. So if you can see, I've just got a bit of drain pipe there, a bit of black drain pipe running out across, and then we've got the 4 pipes coming out down the bottom there. That's 2 heating pipes, 2 irrigation pipes, and then what I've done, I'll show you at the other end just because it's a bit easier, is I've taped them up. So we've got blue and red on there, blue and red on the other irrigation is underneath those 2 white pipes. And what that means, basically, red is going to be stuff that's under pressure, so that will be the irrigation that I'm going to put a pump on and the flow from the boiler, and then the blue is the return. It just means that when I'm connecting that side of the system up to the rest of it, I don't then put it onto the wrong circuits, if that makes sense at this end. So yeah, that's what I did there, so that was quite good. But yeah, I'm really happy with these fence posts. It was nice to get them in, because like I said, I've been mentioning them for about 9 months now, saying I'll put them in, but now to actually have them in is pretty good. And I just quite like the view of that, sort of looking down the line at them. Looks quite nice. Let's have a look if they're level. Oh, look at that, almost like I meant it. If you're doing fence posts and you're doing anything like this, that's how you do it. You get this builder's string and you just tie it up, have it so it comes across like that, tie it to the end post, and then pull it tight, and that'll give you the, you know, how far sort of out you can come to touch it. So yeah, that's not bad. So next thing for me is just to finish off the patio, as in get all the cuts done, get that cemented in, get all this bed built up, smash out the tiki heads, get them in, and then I think landscaping wise, that's pretty much me done for a while, and I can flip over to gardening and start bringing some plants out and moving them around. So anyway, Hope you're good. See you later.